All righty. We're doing it. We're live. How's it going, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Happy Tradecraft Tuesday. Look, if you're looking for Tradecraft Tuesday, you're here. You're in the right place. You found it. Across all those different internet airwaves, you landed on the right one. Look, we have a fun show for you all today, but I really appreciate you all jumping into chat already. If you haven't already, maybe it's a little bit of a tradition, a little bit of fun that we have with Tradecraft Tuesday. Absolutely love to see where folks are tuning in from. Where are you at? Where are you on in the world? I'm over in the East Coast of the United States these days. And look, I'm joined today with a lovely co-star and guest, Chris. Where are you these days, man?
Yeah. Hey, John. Thanks. I like to say I'm from Philly still. I actually just moved to the New Jersey suburbs right across the river in Cherry Hill. But yeah, East Coast as well.
Excellent. Excellent. I see some Louisiana. I see some Florida. I see some Illinois, some West Coast here and there. Awesome. 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 Well, everybody, I guess we can dive in. I guess we can get the show started. We are past the hour, so we'll pull up the screen share, some of the slides, and let's dive in to Tradecraft Tuesday. Look, if you aren't familiar, um, it's Cybersecurity Awareness Month. It's October. It's that annual time of year again. When we are all extra aware of cybersecurity, if you aren't already. But something that we tend to do for that whole month of October is host a capture the flag or a CTF, a little game, an exercise, a handful of activities and challenges. So us nerds and geeks, and I gotta be honest, I think today's episode really kind of caters to a lot of the nerds and geeks. So they've got someone to play with. So they've got a toy. So they've got a new game. And we thought, if we host this whole thing for the entire month of October, the fun is having new challenges released every day. And that's quite an undertaking. So I've had to call in for reinforcements. I asked for some backup. I got some friends together here. And Chris, I think it'd be awesome if you'd be willing to help tell your spiel because you're the founder over at CourseStack, lead singer of the band. But who are
Yeah,
you? Do you
well,
mind giving your spiel?
sure. One of the founders is actually three of us. I don't know if Barrett and Evan are lurking in the chat and on here to chat with as well, but hopefully. So yeah, I'm Chris. I'm one of the co-founders of CourseStack. Have spent my entire career really in cybersecurity, actually starting off on the red team side of things. So straight out of college, I did a co-op and then full time at a great company in Philly called Security Risk Advisors. Yeah, so did a lot of web and internal pen testing there, red teaming, a brief stint at a different company doing more security engineering SOC work actually for like 6 months before we founded our first company, Snap Labs, which actually was called Uberi to start, which is quite the backstory we'll have
That
to
is a
share one
fun fact.
day.
Yeah.
But yeah, Snap Labs was a cyber range platform, really catered more towards the enterprise use case of building out really large, complex networks where you could install tools like Huntress either as like a POC or as a red teamer to try to bypass them. So we built that out for a few years. It got acquired by another security training company, Immersive Labs. We kind of integrated the products and then left to start CourseStack. And CourseStack was really kind of the result of a couple customers that we had worked with at Snap Labs having this really interesting use case of using the Range platform, but in a much more lightweight way, where they would just spin up a couple VMs and then they'd add students from courses they were selling into the Range that they built with APIs or just manually. And then they use a whole other suite of tools for the LMS. So we decided that was a really interesting type of customer to work with. We loved working with a couple of folks that were doing that. And yeah, that was kind of the impetus for starting CourseStack, which is, yeah, a hands-on LMS specifically for course creators building content in cybersecurity or software engineering, IT, other technical fields where you really need that deep hands-on experience to learn well.
Well,
Yeah,
Chris and I
that's our
got,
spiel.
yeah, no, I love it. And thank you so much for a little bit of the background because look, Chris and I got connected some time ago because I've been doing the silly thing on YouTube, sharing videos, getting education out the door. And then we were always kind of thinking and wondering, look, if we were to ever share a course or courses or more formal curriculum based kind of training, it's tough to track down something on like Podia or Teachable or Udemy or whatever. And then you have to figure out labs. We wanted some to be really hands on and practical. So when we started to spin up this idea for even an extra venture like just hacking training over on my side, when CourseStack came to life, this is incredible. This is phenomenal. This has everything that we need to be able to keep a full technical experience, getting folks into a virtual machine, and still having the lessons and courseware and material all present. So I love you guys, and it goes without saying.
It's mutual. Thanks.
Well, CourseStack also was kind of solving the problem for us in an interesting way because when we've been hosting this Huntress Capture the Flag, or when even I've been running around to host different CTF events, there's always been a limit and a restriction on us where we would try to fan out for the whole world, right? It's a global internet and virtual online game. All these resources and set them in a way that players can take advantage and like exploit vulnerabilities and hack for a hacking competition, but we don't want them to be able to like stomp on or vandalize or ruin the challenges for other players. So it's super important they're all in their own like dedicated per user instance, and we would handle that with like Kubernetes or Docker, different containers and stuff. But that was a really limiting creative canvas. And I'll tell you a little bit more about, okay, now kind of the sweet stuff that CourseStack is helping us out on that front. But I thought it would be worthwhile to tell you a little bit more about the CTF history for folks that might not be tracking the past couple of years we've put this game on. And then I'll let you know how the game's going, who's doing what, and we'll talk even a little bit some of the raw, gory behind the scenes oopsies and mistakes that we've run into or things to fix, hot fire patch and repair and all that good learning that we're going through as we have the thing already in flight. And then we'll dive through a demo. I'll solve one of the early day challenges, maybe to wet your toes or get your toes in the water, whet your appetite for some of the material there. But first, we should roll through the in the news section, kind of a tradition for Tradecraft Tuesday. Chris, is there anything that is top of mind for you? Was there anything that you were checking or tracking security news? And if not, that's okay. I know you're busy.
Yeah, not in particular. I know Discord maybe had a breach recently. Yeah, the npm package mess. That's we developed a software product, so that was top of mind for us. Luckily, didn't have to change too much because of that. But yeah, our customers, students, they keep our hands full. So
no, I know you're always chasing.
Don't have my magnifying glass down to the cybersecurity news as much as I used to.
To be honest, I'm kind of right there with you. So chat, hey, maybe the audience, if you're willing, I'd love to get from you all, what is top of mind for you? Oracle, okay, yeah, Oracle, some of those attacks, shenanigans. SonicWall, I'm glad you mentioned it. That was the one that I pulled out of the hat here. We have been chasing SonicWall stuff for some time now. You might have seen the blog and article that we put out just previously. We are seeing a lot more intrusions kind of on that front. And I think there is more to be told in that story, but I'm not sure when we're able to, kind of unseal our lips. But that has been quite a conundrum. There's been a lot of chit chat around some of the SonicWall stuff. But thinking through how we could get even more education and awareness out on that. Okay, Salesforce trouble, Salesloft stuff, some of the shiny hunters, lapses or scattered lapses, shiny hunters over those fools in the dark web. I know that's been some of the cybercrime stuff in the conversations on that front. To be honest, this is like the fourth takedown of breach forums, right? I've lost the plot. I don't know what's going on with the dark web cyber criminals, scattered lapses, shiny hunters, Pokemon XYZ, there's too many. But great to see some of the communication in chat. VMware shenanigans, Cisco. Yeah, there's a lot going on. Cybersecurity Awareness Month, October, is keeping us on our toes. There's too much kind of happening right now. Red Hat, wow. Well, let me keep us cruising. I think we could chat a little bit about the Huntress CTF. And let me go back in time a little bit. Maybe bring us back to 2023. Uh, Chris, can I ask you, had you ever been familiar with this thing even years prior? Had you seen any of the embers, or did you know there was a Huntress captured the flag?
I don't think I knew about it before you told us about it. So certainly knew of it well ahead of this year and knew about last year's event, but I didn't realize it went back to 23 as well.
Yeah. So way back in 2023, when we were brainstorming, hey, what can we do for Cybersecurity Awareness Month, whole month of October, there was a question that was asked in the meeting, and I gotta say straight up, this is my fault. I am the problem that made this thing what it is. Someone had asked, how do we keep folks engaged for an entire month? Like, how do we keep the cybersecurity awareness topic and discussion and keeping that campaign really alive and well for 31 days? And I'm the idiot that said, well, look, realistically, you can host a CTF, you can host a game or an exercise and activity, a capture the flag competition, and make it run the entire month. And to keep folks engaged, to keep folks coming back to play and learn a little bit more, you can release tasks or challenges or a new challenge every single day of the month. Which I don't know if that translates to you, listeners, viewers in chat, but that's a mountain of work.
And you signed yourself up for it.
Yeah, I threw the grenade myself personally, and then I jumped on it, me. But we have a lot of fun with that because in 2023, I felt like we made some commotion. A lot of folks were diving in to work through a lot of the challenges across forensics, across malware analysis, across host-based forensics, network forensics, digital forensics, memory forensics, right? Even some kind of more classic Jeopardy style CTF challenges. There's binary exploitation, there's web app exploitation, cryptography. But we did want this, the Huntress CTF, to have a little bit more of a flair for real threat intelligence or real threats and intrusions and incidents that we're seeing kind of out and about across the landscape. So that was really the focus and what we wanted to lean in on, that DFIR or incident response, SOC analyst work, and malware analysis material. And that was a lot of fun. If any of the folks listening in had played in the previous years, Black Cat ransomware was a fun little joke and play that we had. Some of the Golang-based crack me's or reverse engineering challenges where folks were cutting up IDA, Ghidra, digging into disassembly to see how they could manipulate different samples. And then some simple stuff like, cute little tricks of opening up Notepad or getting a calculator that runs shellcode or backdooring Splunk, like SIM solutions. How could this tradecraft be used and abused by actors and things like that? So had a lot of fun with 2023 game. And then we thought, we want to make sure folks are enjoying themselves and being able to share and flex a little bit on LinkedIn. So we had player certificates. Everyone that participated, all almost 9,000 registered players back in 2023, after they solved all the challenges at the end of the month, however many points they had, however many challenges they had solved, we put this out so they could scream and shout on social medias and, put a little certificate on their fridge if they wanted to. This was cool. This was really, really cool. It's sort of heartwarming to see that outpouring of people that played and celebrating what that whole month was all about. And we felt like this was a home run. This is a success. And we wanted to keep doing it. So we did Huntress CTF 2024, kind of a similar setup, but I do want to sprinkle in now where we would run up against the wall, because I told you, look, a lot of the containers, the challenges that we'd spin up were in Docker, and that requires Linux more often than not. And it was just a simple application-based container, not a full-blown virtual machine or thick client sort of setup. And we couldn't network one thing to the next. We couldn't have, if we wanted to, a whole Active Directory range in a clear, easy way. So we're starting to scratch our head and wonder, how can we get this for 9,000 players? How could we have a VPN or a virtual private network where they could connect into it? And while we had our next go around with 2024, oh, silly fun challenges, Wamazon, oh, Sakuru, in plain sight, different executables you'd cut up, forensics and reverse engineering. We were starting to work a lot more than we should have on putting out fires. Like, uh-oh, the Kubernetes cluster fell over again. We got to restart some pods, or there are zombie challenges left in the ether that no player is assigned to or claimed. And we would just be wrestling infrastructure issues with the kind of platform that we had cobbled together with like glue and duct tape, truth be told. Um, but it was still a success. Hey, 7,000 or so folks played that game in 2024. But now we're trying to think of how can we make this a little bit better? We get the marketing fluff, we get the cybersecurity awareness campaigns, talking about this in blogs, letting folks play with it. But then when we get to the 2025 game, we start thinking, hey, let's hang out with CourseStack. And
No, we
Chris,
can put out the fires.
yeah, thank you.
Someone
Thank
else
you for
can do that.
being.
Yeah.
I felt funny, like, oh, I get to delegate a little bit with some of this. Would you mind, I don't know, filling in the gaps on even just how that conversation got started, what you were feeling when I said, look, I need to bring you 10,000 or so players, however many folks show up, and I don't know how many VMs they're going to run for however long. Like,
Yeah, I mean, obviously we do not typically have events that are 10,000 plus players in them. And we were thinking like, hey, this is a great opportunity for us to kind of show off the platform a little bit. And frankly, like I'm sure we'll uncover some issues and get some free load testing and QA when that many people are hammering the platform all at once. And they're also all hackers and it's a CTF. Weird stuff happens that you just can't test for. So we thought it was a really cool opportunity. And plus a really, really fun event to get to watch throughout the month. So I forget if you approached us about it specifically, or you had told me I was kind of fishing, I think, about last year's event when I heard about it and how you were using CTFD and Kubernetes and yeah, duct tape and love to make it all work. I was like, what if we did some of that for you? So I think it's been super fun. This page on the screen share right here is yeah, something we've been doing for customers as well. Just yeah, more custom, nice design landing pages and everything for events like this. So
this has been a really cool thing because I got to work with you through Huntress, and that way, there's a little bit more of a well-oiled machine of, hey, marketing folks helping out with graphics and designs and prizes and shipping and all the things that come with the extraneous stuff rather than the nerdy, geeky, let me write content, let me create challenges, let me bang out code. So that was neat because normally you're just kind of tolerating me on my own, but it was like, hey, we've got a whole team here. We've got a lot of folks that can make this a sweet success. And thank you for putting together that front end landing page. A little bit more bells and whistles to it than just flat cookie cutter CTFD. I did want to call out and highlight the prizes that we've got going this year. We are stoked to be able to give, hey, just a little bit of cash gift card, a little bit of a financial monetary prize. I was begging for more. Trust me, believe me, I do always ask, hey, can we get a little bit more in the budget? But we still got some super sweet, I think, Proxmark, like hardware kits, some swag, specialized challenge coin, OMG cable, rubber ducky, cool hacker toys. And those will go to the top 5 folks. And the top 50 will still get some sweet Huntress swag. I wish we could get a t-shirt out to all however many 10,000 of you, but that's a lot. Look at the scoreboard for this though. This has been the funniest thing to look at.
I gotta say, I did not expect this much point submission density in the scoreboard here. We had to turn off the animation because it was too crazy. If you clicked on something, it would all kind of reload again. So it's just a static image now, but looks crazy.
Yeah, we do have some folks that occasionally ask in the Discord, and the Discord is kind of, the community, the server where folks are chatting and having some fun, sharing memes and GIFs. Folks are saying, like, should we really default to like the top 50 or the top 10? Because all looks like a shotgun blast here. A lot of fun. So we got to put together the Huntress CTF 2025 within CourseStack. And the gimmick is that that is challenges released every day, but now we've got that full VPN virtual private network to connect into and full blown virtual machines. So if folks were playing and tagging along, you see up to like day 14 challenges now. And let me be real with you. I know we've sprinkled in maybe one challenge or so a day after kind of the first week. We've still been cooking up some material. We've still been trying to get some challenges here and ready for you. Because while we've had probably the most successful, like bang out, awesome home run with this game so far, I always am feeling like we need more. We got to get you more toys. We got to get you more challenges. We need to be able to bring out more material for you. But the coolest thing in all reality is being able to spin up a virtual machine, because you could click launch on any of these little challenge cards, and then it will give you a dynamic IP address that you could use over the VPN, wait for that thing to become available, and then click connect. So readily, no matter what that service is hosting, whether it's some terminal, like you're logging in via SSH or Telnet, if folks are still tracking Telnet, or maybe a Netcat socket connection or an HTTP or web connection, or even like a full-blown desktop environment with RDP. We give it just a few more moments to let maybe a container or web challenge open up, and then it's super easy to be able to pull those out and see them right away within your browser, or if you wanted to use the VPN connection. So helping folks get a little bit more educated and aware with those methods of access. But how is the browser-based proxy working for you, Chris, if I may ask? Was that always, look, you wanted the intent? I know the VPN was something that I kind of begged and whined and squeamed about.
Yeah, plenty of people were asking for VPN. I mean, the proxy is great because they, if you're just hosting a web app like this and you need your players, your students to get access, it's really overkill to have them launch an entire VM themselves, get into the desktop environment, launch a browser, and then spin it up. So the neat part about the web proxy is that it takes you straight in to whatever service you have it pointed at. So that's like the web in this case. It could be other services, but it's also all authenticated. So you have to be signed in to your CourseStack account to access this, and you have to also be a part of this event. And you're only going to see the systems that you have access to. So it's a really streamlined way to do that. Whereas I think a lot of setups out there, you spin up something that's on a random domain, and that's kind of your security. It's through obscurity, it's random, and it doesn't live very long. So it's not that big of a deal that it might be out there for a bit. But yeah, we really have been having fun with this one and seeing you guys use it so much.
I can talk about some of the fun hiccups that we saw, even again in that old infrastructure and setup that we had for 2023 and 2024. Just like you mentioned, it was a whatever random URL and whatever random port that we could kind of see with Kubernetes. So for folks that remember, if anyone played that game, it would bring you to like a challenge.ctf.games URL and the random port 30226 or 30,789, whatever. Hiccup and speed bump there is that, look, if players started to get a little bit crafty, and these are all hackers, right? Mind you, that they are going to get crafty and try those clever things. What's to stop them from just enumerating and seeing what other ports are allocated for other players? And then even if there were a per user instance, they could still make a mess and cause some trouble. So having things in this cool new enclave with CourseStack is awesome. Really, I'm gonna keep saying it. Sorry.
Yeah, well, we had a similar oopsie, but it was resolved quickly this time around, and it didn't break. Or it wasn't because of like malicious scanning or anything. We just accidentally broke with the crazy load you guys put on us real quick.
So with that, can we talk a little bit about some of the metrics, some of the stats, some of the analytics while we are only halfway through, right? This is day 14, I guess. So.
Yeah, hopefully this will all grow. I know especially the question submissions and VMs will grow, but registered participants, so this is how many folks actually have signed up for the CTF, but not actually necessarily joined, is over 10,000. So 10,821 as of last night. So I guess that's the best turnout you've had so far, John, which is, really, really happy that it's going well. Hopefully we hit 20 next year. And then the next slide here is the actually registered and joined participants. So 8,681 players have actually gone in and not necessarily submitted a flag, but accessed the content, checked out the CTF, and most likely, I think there's close to this number of folks that are on the scoreboard as well. So yeah, a lot of people are participating, over 80%, or right about 80%, which is great. I think a lot of other events we see don't get that type of turnout. It might be closer to 50. That, for like a public, this is free, anyone can sign up. It's usually not quite so high utilization wise with folks actually checking things out after they've signed up and following through and participating. So that's really great to see that so many people have come back in and used the platform and followed up and are participating.
May I dance with this for just a little bit? Because
Yeah.
this is totally a new record. Hey, groundbreaking, sweet, earth-shattering, wholly new territory of breaking well beyond past the 10,000 at least registered participants, and that's so cool. That blows even the stuff that I've hosted maybe outside of Huntress, like NomCon or GrimCon or a B-side CTF sort of thing, way out of the water, which is phenomenal. And the active participants, again, I know we're just only like 2 weeks through, so the numbers will only go up. What else were we thinking for the virtual machines, though, Chris? This is hysterical.
Yeah, this is it's crazy because there's 3 times as many VMs deployed as participants. So the funny thing about this one is, so this metric is how many times did we deploy a new virtual machine? It's not necessarily how many are deployed and running at a given time. So this is just how many have been deployed throughout the CTF. And one day there was a challenge you released that had a kind of brute force type of flair to it. And if you hacked away at it too fast, your IP would get blocked. And CTF players, being clever, decided that it would work really well to just reset the machine to get a fresh one to get around that kind of IP rate limiting. So that same day, we just had thousands and thousands of restarts and redeploys of the challenge machines. So that really, really skyrocketed that number. But still, yeah, a ton, like hundreds of VMs deployed concurrently, thousands per day of people participating for the challenges that have them. Yep, flag checker was the one. That was the culprit.
Yeah. It's so funny. Flag checker is a timing attack. And there's no secret to that. I'm happy to sprinkle in a couple hints here and there. Obviously, these are past challenges, but flag checker is a timing attack where you would submit the flag or a flag, and we can spin it up. That's fun. We'll do this real. The gimmick is you could submit the first couple characters of a flag, like FLAG, curly brace, and then hex characters that follow. Flag checker would end up waiting a 10th of a second every time you had a character correct. So it's feasible, it's possible to smartly leak out the flag value, knowing that the standard format is hexadecimal, like 0 through 9, A through F. If you were to try and cycle through all the possible characters, you could, I don't want to say brute force, but that is really, that kind of is what it, smartly leak what the flag value should be over time. The gimmick that we threw onto flag checker, and I can try and click connect here and see if this thing will open, it will wait just a little bit of time. But if you do this over and over and over again, it will end up rate limiting you and say, hey, our new security team is flagging you here. You're not going to be able to keep submitting and trying to test different characters, flag A, flag B, flag C, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You'll eventually get caught and they'll say, look, we see you hammering this thing after you've maybe tried to script or automate some of the solution. I'm waiting until I can eventually hit that
You'll
threshold.
get there.
Oh, we will. We'll get there. And it would tell you, look, your IP address is banned because you have been hacking. You've been bad. That will encourage folks to maybe, and maybe we should have added a couple extra guardrails around this for the challenge, restart their virtual machine. So that, I'm sure, yeah, did balloon up a lot of the material. The trick here, you don't have to reset this virtual machine at all, is to use some of the clever headers in your web requests. This is a web-based challenge, so you can make it look like you're coming from a different IP address connecting to that app. But anyway, I'm sorry, that was a tangent and rabbit hole. My bad.
Yeah, so that was a fun day. And then these are the question attempts. So 10,000 people, a bunch of challenges, but only 105,000 guesses at flags. And then the next slide here is how many were correct, which I believe was around 55. So almost half of the attempts are correct, which is great. Thank you, CTF players, for not trying to brute force the actual platform with your question submissions. It's against the rules, but you know how flexible those can be sometimes with these sorts of challenges. And yeah, really, most folks, 50% is really good for, yeah, like percentage correct. Half the time, if you have a flag, it's likely you didn't like put a bunch of incorrect flags around and people had to guess which one was correct. So I think the challenges, it probably means that the challenges are pretty well structured, and when you have the flag, you have it. And a lot of these incorrect guesses are maybe typos or that sort of thing. Copy and paste issues. I know sometimes weird characters get stuck on the end and that sort of thing. So yeah, a lot of fidelity coming from find a flag to inputting it to the platform and getting the right answer.
Yeah, I'm a big firm believer of a standard flag format. So just keeping it clear and evident. Once the player has the solution, I want to make sure they know it and they can submit that A-OK. We've been really trying to keep that, keep ourselves in check on that. What we want to avoid those sort of logical leap of faith tasks or something that might be a guesswork or guessy thing. I think there are going to be, and there certainly have been, maybe flag checker as a fine example, some tasks that will frustrate folks, some folks that might get a little bit annoyed. But look, you got a whole month, guys. There's no rush. Cool.
Yeah, so those are kind of the top line metrics.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I mean, was
those
there
were the
more?
interesting ones. No, those are, we can pull out, like, do an update on those at the end of the CTF to publish. I'm sure they'll balloon, especially on the last day. We'll have some crazy metrics, so it'll be fun to look through.
Yeah, I think when we get to maybe the middle of the month or like the halftime show here, so to speak, it is a little bit in a lull. It's hey, folks, getting back into the month, getting back into work, doing what they got to do. But that's, I hope, been the benefit of this CTF as well, is that you can take your time. You can play whenever you want. There's no obligation. There's no time commitment. It's optional. But when we get to the very end of the month, the last couple days, last week, folks really do dive in and like, oh, how much more can I get? How much more can I solve before the clock runs out? So having some fun with that. I did want to show off just a couple of the other fun challenges to tease and maybe have some fun with the folks that work cutting through this thing. And let me actually bring in another element here, if I could, because something that we've been doing in this CTF is cognizant and aware that, hey, a lot of these tasks and challenges are for the technical nerds and geeks. Maybe it's for your engineers, maybe for your technicians, maybe for some analysts and folks that would be really wanting to cut up code and dig into things. But not everyone is maybe at that level or really want to play and dig into things with all of that time commitment and effort to it. So we have sprinkled in some of the security awareness training stuff that you might already just be super familiar with at Huntress. The Huntress managed security awareness training with a lot of the sweet episodes from Curriculaville with Dee Dee and Josh and all the fun little characters to have a little bit more awareness and education Of course, the gift of SAT, or our free security awareness training for the month of October. These are super duper accessible. They're super fun. They're super sweet. It's just kind of a cute little video to be able to watch the episode and see, what really is the right sort of password security posture? What is it about AI and generative AI that could lead to some troubles? Or what about the scams? What about phishing awareness? What about all the things that we should still be tracking, even if you're not cutting up code, late hacks, beating CTF challenges? Maybe these are still some good fun to learn wider security awareness training. Anyway, I'm rambling. The verify your human task has been a fun one. That was a click fix malware sample. A lot of these are ripped off of real malware and taken from things that we've seen in the wild. I won't beat up the dead horse here, but we're poking and playing with some of the ransomware gangs, some of the cyber criminals that are doing shady stuff. Some of the challenges get a tease and have some lighthearted fun with maybe Arika, the ransomware gang based off of Akira. This is the real kind of clone or copy of what would have been their dark web leak site. Maybe some detection engineering work, or putting that on the offensive with linting Sigma rules, and some classic cookie cutter kind of CTF challenges. But the real big kicker that I'm pretty excited for, and we'll see more of that, is Windows-based hosts and being able to connect in and use a full-blown desktop environment. Again, huge thanks to CourseStack. Could you fill in the gaps a little bit on even some of the VM usage, or like credits, so to speak? I know folks kind of scratch their head and wonder, what is that? What is credits here?
Sure. So obviously infrastructure is not free to run. Our platform's on AWS. So every time we spin up a VM for you, it's hosted in EC2, and we're running a bill for that. Credits, if you've ever looked at an Amazon, an AWS bill, there's about 4,000 line items of how they charge you in different ways. Some of it's for the EC2 runtime, some of it's for the storage, some of it's for the network, data transfer, all sorts of stuff. So a credit is simply a CourseStack metric that we've made up and kind of collected all of the various metrics that AWS bills us, made it to one simple to understand number, and pass that along to our customers. So instead of having to know a bunch of different metrics about your VM, how much expected bandwidth it's going to chew up, what the storage is to get an estimated bill, you just have to know how many gigabytes of RAM are provisioned and how long are you going to run it for, and we can give you a definitive answer on how much it's going to cost. So typically with our customers, they're selling courses or they're running events, and they're either passing that along to the students that take the course, or they're including runtime via credits with the course purchase or sign up. So Huntress is a free, CTF is a free event. You guys have generously included, I think, like 10,000 credits or something, that you'd have to be running all of the challenges simultaneously the whole month or something to run through them. So yeah, really generous of you guys to sponsor all that for the CTF participants and make sure that everyone can access all of the hands-on content for as long as they need to compete.
Thank you. Yeah, that has been, really the priority is, hey, making sure this is free for everyone that is wanting to play and participate. So when we were thinking about, how do we make sure everyone can spin up however many VMs they want for as long as they want for the whole month, it's like, all right, we'll pull in whatever big number to make sure everyone's got credits. But I appreciate you all being willing to tolerate 30,000 VM starts and however many hours of AWS time. So I think now we can have some fun, though, talking about those raw, gory mistakes. Well, I don't know. Are you still having fun fighting through the fire?
No, absolutely. No, it's been good. Like I said, we really looked at this as a chance to see, like, okay, what's going to happen when this many people are simultaneously hitting F5 before the challenge gets released the first day. That was, it was kind of the first oopsie, but yeah, I'm proud to say we've had only a couple incidents or issues during the CTF, and in my opinion, at least, they've been relatively minor. So yeah, happy to walk through kind of the three that are top of my mind. The first one was everyone just melting the servers. So coming into this, day to day, the platform is very very over provisioned, so to speak. So like CPU utilization very low every day. We're not seeing a lot of kind of spiky load, but for an event like this where you have a ton of people coming in and really hammering the platform all at once, it's way more like a spiky network load, a load on the application than typical. So we kind of accounted for the extra users that were probably going to come in, but not for how much extra traffic from each of those users as well was going to happen. So start of the challenge, we kind of instantly got a lot of 404 issues. The server just wasn't responding. And we didn't identify it right away because our like database CPUs got pegged to 90% on all of our metrics graphs. And that we're like, okay, 90 is rough, but looks like it's okay. Turns out that was actually more like 100. Not quite sure myself where the extra 10% went, or if it was just a oddity of the logging. But yeah, that was our first issue. And then everything started timing out. And then that exponentially increased all of these log streams we were trying to create as part of like our logging errors. So those went up exponentially as well, and that kind of compounded the issue. Luckily, it was a super simple fix. All we had to do was download more RAM. So it was a quick restart of the database server on a much beefier instance afterwards, and everything's been super performative so far. Like everything's snappy again, even with a few big spikes with people coming in the subsequent days. So yeah, happy with how that one's gone. And yeah, now we know for next time how much extra to kind of consider when you guys start this thing.
Yeah, that was fun. Uh, it is everyone kind of, banging on the door, waiting to F5, waiting to rush in
Yep.
for the very start of the game. And the database one is always the one that, oh, yep, remember.
Yeah. There's always something. Like we've done a lot of events, none this scale, but we've done a lot of events. There's always something at the beginning, like a little hiccup. So we expected there to be some sort of issue. We were more expecting it to be, folks couldn't, sign in because they forgot their password or whatever it was, like flooded with those types of requests. But I think luckily, your registration was ahead of time and people already had sorted that stuff out if there were issues. So it was just the server load.
And it is smooth as butter right now. So all resolved easy peasy. But things to keep in mind.
Yep. So the next one was the proxy connections kind of going awry. So this is similar to the issue you described, John, in previous years, where players would enumerate the other ports that were open on your clusters. So we don't like our architecture isn't like that. We have kind of a central proxy service that takes all of your requests into the app and routes it to the right virtual machine that's running. And what happened was, we're not sure how, but some sort of either it was like the extra load, or maybe it was weird payloads getting thrown at some of the challenges through the proxy that we weren't expecting. But we got to a state where the bash script that we run to determine where to send you had an extra line of output, and it was like this off by one error. So then our Apache mod rewrite service was just sending you to the wrong spot consistently. Like it can never recover from it. So we kind of fixed the script that was spitting out that one line if you go here, so that it can't possibly do that again. So it's been a really stable since. We're still not quite sure how it happened in the first place, but so far the fix has been solid.
That was a very funny bug, if I may say, because a lot of the Discord participants are thinking like, "Oh, I just started the verify your human challenge, but then I'm suddenly pointed at Sigma linter or emotional or like a completely different thing that that didn't expect." So it
Yeah.
was interesting.
Yeah, we were a bit concerned for a second, but luckily it got to the bottom of it.
No, well done, excellent work.
And then the last issue we had was guacamole connections. So this is a service we use to get you that full desktop environment. And the SSH sessions as well. So when you hit connect on a Windows system, for instance, and you get that RDP connection to the Windows server as a normal user on the desktop, we use Apache Guacamole in like an auto scaling cluster to handle all of those connections. So our service wasn't scaling up fast enough. Yes, a lot of connections, a lot of load, which we thought about, but that they weren't scaling enough. So we had a bunch of slow connections and a bunch of dropped connections that were happening. And really what the issue was is that we weren't expecting the load to be so spiky. I think files were getting uploaded and downloaded as well, which goes through the Guacamole service. So our rules for when to scale up were just way not aggressive enough. So we made a lot more aggressive scaling rules. And then things spun up, extra containers spun up as we needed them. And that was, so far, I haven't heard any chatter in the Discord about more Guacamole issues, which Discord's been great. It's like, instead of looking at our error logging, you can just look at the chat because they will tell you when something is wrong. They will yell for sure. So yeah, the Guac connection should be a lot stabler now, and we should scale up anytime we're getting even close to needing more resources.
Yeah, we've been joking of hey, a month-long free air quotes of QA testing and bug fixes. So thank you all for sticking with it. Those fun edge cases that we find when we've got a lot of folks playing the game and getting a chance to see it all in action. So well, last couple, maybe 15 minutes here, and I really appreciate still about 300 folks hanging out with us. Now I finally get to, hey, crack it open and do a little bit of a demo. Maybe we could solve one of the challenges. I know I'll be yapping and rambling for a little bit, though. Chris, is there more that you want to sprinkle in or anything before I enter the trance of live performed demo?
No, go ahead. Let's hope the demo guys treat us well and we don't have another oopsie on the webinar.
Fingers crossed. We might, but what I'm going to do is bring us to the day 3 challenge, Sandy. And this is a malware category, CTF challenge here. So one of the things that, we're a little bit more pertinent to in the Huntress world. And the challenge prompt here is my friend Sandy is really into cryptocurrencies. She's been trying to get me into it too. So she showed me a lot of Chrome extensions that they could manage my wallets for Bitcoin, Monero, whatever, Dogecoin. I don't know. I don't know a whole lot of the whole crypto world, but I thought this was a neat little task to run through. And they say, once I got everything set up, she gave me some cool program. She says it adds better protection so my wallets can't get hacked or messed with by hackers. And Sandy is such a good friend, she wouldn't lie to us, right? She's the best. But this is a malware CTF challenge, so we could download sandy.zip and then start to work with it. Being in the malware category, the archive is going to be password protected. Standard usual malware password is infected. And I'm going to have to disk jockey the screen share for a quick moment. So give me just a moment and let me get a virtual machine up and running for us, because this is just a static file download in this case. We'd probably want to be working in a virtual machine of our own. So let me get something going for us. I should be using like Remnux or Flare VM, or some smart and proper reverse engineering or malware analysis tool. But I got to be honest, I think we could just do this in Windows, though I've got Defender kind of disabled, cleaned up, and tucked away. So can you see my screen A-okay? Windows desktop, hopefully, perhaps?
Nope, not right now.
Not quite yet. Let me double check. Am I sharing the right thing here? Okay.
There we go.
Excellent. So I have our Sandy archive downloaded and on our desktop, and that is the zip archive. I'm going to open this with WinRAR. I should have used 7-zip or something, because that way I'll get guilted into not having a registered copy. I did buy the purse, though. I do have the WinRAR bag, so please no one fault me on that. We'll extract it to our desktop, and then let's run the infected password here. And now I have the Sandy executable here on my desktop. Now, folks might be familiar with this icon. You might already be tracking, you might well be able to see this is auto IT. But for folks that aren't familiar with that, let me try to run Detected Easy. I think I have that in my downloads here. So let's get, oh, maybe, yeah, let's get to downloads. And let's run the Detected Easy tool. So that way you might be able to more clearly see or identify. And this is a very, very common, probably maybe the first step for folks to understand and analyze what is a binary or program made up of, or how is it made. So let's go browse to that Sandy executable on the desktop. Once I can specify this one, it will start to analyze it. And then it will tell me, look, it's a Windows executable. It's a .exe. We could have checked the properties and looked at that if we wanted to. But it looks like it's packed with UPX, or one of the universal packer tools. It is an auto IT script, but compiled. And auto IT is one of those languages, one of the tools that are out and about to be able to automate a lot of interaction on a desktop, on a computer. And you could still do kind of sneaky, shady Win32 API function calls and stuff like that. So let's try to cut this thing up, because if we wanted to get from not just the full compiled exe, could we uncover the source code? Like, could we see the original auto IT script that this came with? So I could, and if you weren't too familiar with auto IT binaries, I could try to run something like strings, which I have in the sysinternals directory, strings.exe, on our Sandy executable file. That's going to give us a ton of stuff. That's going to, pour out a lot of nonsense. But if I were to now filter or grep, essentially, find and look for things that just maybe mention that auto IT, knowing this is compiled here, that clues me in that this is an auto IT binary set with the scripting language, but with the specific version number. And the commas here, same thing as kind of the dots or the periods for version 3.2.4.9. So auto IT, when you have the utility that lets you compile an executable out of a scripting file, like a script on its own, that works well. And you could even decompile ones up to this version number. Or I think it's like 3.25 or something similar. So we wanted to make sure we were giving players something they could decompile. There's tools like aught2exe, where you could compile a script from auto IT to an executable file, or the reverse of that, exe to auto, where you could decompile that script. Now, those are all included with that version that you might install of auto IT. So if we give it the Sandy executable, we could try and have this convert. Looks like it worked. And then let me try and open up Sublime Text. So maybe we could go look at what that script file included. And I'm keeping an eye on the clock because I know we got just a bit of time left here. But if we were looking at the source code, this looks like a disaster. This looks awful. This looks heinous, with lots of nonsense, random variable names, random constants, characters, lists, arrays of variables. Maybe there are a couple calls to different DLLs. Maybe it's retrieving some capability, but I think, and maybe you'll get this hunch just as well, there is so much here with random numbers and random variables and maybe just a couple semblances of a DLL mentioned here and there. I gotta think a lot of this stuff is noise. It's just nonsense. It's just bloat. It's something to trick or fool an antivirus engine or some automated security solution to think, oh, there's a lot of stuff happening, even if it's not really doing anything. So we could keep scrolling and keep exploring through the sea of nonsense and garbage and gibberish, but you might eventually see, and it's over here on the side mini map now, there's a giant chunk of base64 data, base64 encoded text or strings here, and there are a lot of these. So much so we'll probably ruin the bit rate of the video as I scroll through the whole thing. And then it works with those base 64 chunks. If we were to try and go look for them, if we see they're being defined here with all of those values, then it's actually being used in an inject PowerShell func or function. So that sounds a little bit more shady and a little bit more clear than all the other nonsense that we've seen so far. So let's speed run this because I know we're short on time here, but ultimately you'll end up decoding all of this base 64 and then trying to run another stage or payload from that. So let me scroll way back to the top. And what I'm going to do to make this easy to copy and paste is actually get this data out, collapsed, and let me see if I can get us into maybe Sublime Text or Kali, something that we could actually work with a little bit better. That way I could use some Linux capability and maybe clean up all this data. As long as it lets me copy and paste from one VM to the next, that's kind of the next question here. Will this carry from the Windows world to the Linux world? It looks like it does. So let me remove all of the ampersands and underscores at the very end so we could just extract the raw base 64 value. I'm replacing and removing all of those. I'm replacing and removing all of the double quotes and then any of the sort of white space characters. I also want to remove those. Let's see if Sublime Text can handle that. It might choke. There's a lot to it, but it's saved. Good. Now we have all of this base 64 data. And at the very end, some oddities here. Okay. Now, if it's just base 64, we could decode from our stage1.base64 file that we just cleaned that all up in. And that gave us a whole lot more stuff. Probably PowerShell, right? So since we know that's going to be executed there, let's redirect that and store that output in a stage2.ps1 PowerShell script. And now there's a lot of stuff here. More back and forth layers of encoded base 64 and different chunks that it will decode and then invoke and then decode and then invoke and then decode and then invoke. This is genuinely really how the malware sample looked when we kind of had first found this thing. And the end of it, there's one extra little tidbit that's not using an encoded script variable, but an encoded JSON variable. And I'll speed run through to the very end here. This can get us to the end. The rest of this code is literally, genuinely a crypto stealer. Like this is a draining your crypto wallets based off of any of the browser extensions that might be in Google Chrome or Firefox or etc. And the way that it's tracking a lot of those is in this encoded JSON blob. Again, that's just base 64. So let me copy that value out. And then we could go ahead, base 64 decode that and bring that to some output.json, I suppose. Good enough. And with that, it is PowerShell code that's included here, but you'll see all of the different sort of targets that this might leak and pull data out of if we were to explore more of the rest of the encoded data and the other layers of this malware. But you can see the different extension IDs for each of those different possible Coinbase or cryptocurrency wallets. Scrolling to the end of this, while this was alluded to in the challenge description, in the prompt, you will find the flag as just part of these fake, maybe extension IDs for different web browser tools. We can go find our flag here and then submit that for points on the board. Speedrun, crash course, ran through that with like what, 60 seconds to spare to the last minute here?
It's like you've done this before.
Yeah, I don't know. With that, what do you think, Chris? Have I been rambling for too long?
I think just the right amount of time. No, it's cool. I haven't dived into any of the challenges yet, so really fun to see you walk through one. Seems like, yeah, you've done a great job putting together stuff that's actually pretty realistic. I mean, that basically a real malware sample with a little extra flag thrown in there. So really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I know it's silly, some good, some bad, but hey, we are having fun with it. And with that, let me close out our Tradecraft Tuesday time. Hey, before we do, I'll pull up on the screen share here a couple of the other sweet events that we've got going on. If you're around and in the area, a couple of the Huntress Road shows, MSP show in Green Bay, another one in Philadelphia, October 16th, October 21, and some of the other sweet events, conferences that are out and about. Hope to see you there. But with that, I think we're just about at the end. I don't know if there are any questions, any Q&A, anything that anyone wants to have us banter about for a little bit. Yeah, Sandy was our cyber criminal here. Trust no one, including Sandy. But if there are any challenges that you'd like just a little maybe tidbit on, if you're playing the CTF, if you are, you aren't, I'll see you at Saint Con. Thanks so much. We're all yours for a couple moments, but I know it is the top of the hour and I'll let folks get back to their day. What else you got going on, Chris?
Oh, not much today. I mean, just back to work, but we're finally a little settled over here. So yeah, probably building dark mode for you.
Thank you. That's been maybe the biggest question. I don't know if we saw it in chat here for the Zoom webinar, but yeah, a
I
lot of
saw
folks are dark mode when, please? Excellent. No questions come through. Thank you so much, everyone. Backstage production, whatever's in my ear. I think we can wrap it up.